Great. So this is Nimrod here, and I'm very honored with having Edwin Cordero here, the president of Sherman College of Chiropractic. And thank you for your time today.
Absolutely, Nimrod. Nimrod, thank you so much for, first of all, for the invitation. This is perfect timing for us to be able to have this little chat, and I'm honored and privileged and blessed to have this opportunity to share with you and the people that obviously listen to your podcast and your information.
Yeah, thank you. So, jumping right into maybe some of your experiences, I know that you've been president of Sherman for 8 years, which must be a lot of experiences gathering in through there. How have you found that people have been responding to the chaos that's going on in the world at the moment?
Well, it's interesting. I want to preface this before I answer that. Irene Gold once told me, she says, Dr. Cordero, what's one of the worst jobs in this entire profession? And me being very innocent, I'm like, well, tell me, Irene. She says, the worst job is being a president of a chiropractic college. And I looked at her and I just busted out laughing. I said, you know what? Maybe I didn't agree with you when I first took this job, but now I definitely can see that. But she said it from a loving perspective. And if you know Irene Gold, you know that her sense of humor is very different, but very, out there. And so it was just awesome when she made that comment, maybe kind of introspectively say, wow, this is a big job. And you know what, maybe it's not the worst job, but it definitely is a challenging job. So, but nothing, I think, Nimrod, one of the things that we've kind of experienced is the fact that, Sherman College has always been an institution that's gone out there and just taught the truth of what chiropractic is and what chiropractic is not. And I think that our institution and our, alumni and our people, our staff, our employees, our administrators are all on the same page with the vision and mission, which is to bring the message of chiropractic to the world. And so even though we're having some unprecedented times and some challenging times in the world, we have this solid fundamental basis of understanding that what our job is as doctors of chiropractic, and it's to ensure that we educate people about what we do. And so therefore, from that perspective, I'm very impressed with my team. I'm impressed with our people at Sherman College, because everybody's holding steadfast to the principles of chiropractic, to the truth of chiropractic, and people were not reacting from a negative perspective. On the contrary, we're trying to see how can we reach out to the public and share the message that we so hold dearly, to our heart. And so one of the things that we did recently, we're doing recently, is we actually connected with the Black Diamond Club, and we're doing some free CEs. And it's not because we want to, to bait and switch. We just want to give a time of need. This is the time of need. And so therefore, I appreciate what you're doing, because you're doing these chats with all these different people in our profession, and it's just giving back to the profession in time of need. We don't need nothing from you. We want to be able to serve you. And that's what our fundamental values have always been.
Yeah, lovely. And I know that Sherman holds some very dear values and definitely some good, strict values around the principles of chiropractic as well. So maybe jumping into that, you say that the principles of chiropractic are something that can help our communities at a time like this. How do you see that? What is it that we can get from our principles that is useful at a time like this?
Well, when you talk to chiropractors, especially around the world, and when you talk to, students, you realize that people talk about principles of chiropractic, and yet they don't even know what the word principle, actually means. And if they had to, they wouldn't even know where to go to find the principles. And it has to do with, unfortunately, this lack of training and sharing information. A principle is something that you do because it's the right thing to do. And so you stand on solid ground, and whether there's times of good times happening, you stand on that foundation of those principles that are going to carry us through. And if there's bad times, we stand on those principles. You have to stand on solid ground. And the principles of chiropractic, which is 33 of them, is what grounds us as doctors of chiropractic. We know that there's a universal intelligence, that's out there. We understand that there's an innate intelligence. We understand that there's, that there's a method of, that there's things take time to change. There's all these principles that support what we believe in. And I think that most of us, we kind of get to a situation, I'm not talking about what's happening in the world right now. I'm talking about people struggling in practice. I'm talking about people having too many barriers that prevent them from being the chiropractors that they're supposed to be, maybe with the scheduling, maybe with the fee structure, maybe with communication, maybe with telling people the truth, maybe, not telling people the truth because they're afraid of what people may think. If people go, wow, what is this guy a little different than every other chiropractor that I've been to? And so I think that these principles are what grounds us as doctors of chiropractic to understand that, we are unique in what we do. We follow a set of principles. There's 33 of them. And we understand that if we do that and we stay in our lane, not try to deviate to another lane and try to talk about things that are not chiropractic, that people will respect what we say, and our patients and our practice members will obviously want to continue to come to our offices because they understand truth that maybe a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, amazing, and such a great summary of where we should go to find a lot of what is right for us. I'm curious, you mentioned doing the thing that is right. Outside of the 33 principles, what for you personally is the right thing to do? Where do you get that purpose?
Well, to me, it's my upbringing. I come from Puerto Rico, born and raised in Puerto Rico. I left Puerto Rico when I was 18 years old to go to the U.S. Navy. I served in the U.S. Navy for 6 years, and so this upbringing of telling truth, this upbringing of family, the unit of family, this upbringing of being able to manage situations always in a positive light, was stuff that my parents, instilled in me as a young man. And so when I got out of the military and I went decided to go into the chiropractic field and became a doctor of chiropractic, back in 1993, I went out there wanting to tell people truth. And I wanted to be able to have transparency. I think that's one of the things in times of chaos, or not even in time of chaos, in good times as well. A lot of the leadership in our profession, they're not transparent. And then people go, oh my God, we follow this leader and we found out that person wasn't transparent. That person wasn't coming from a space of love. That person wasn't coming from a space of truth. And so to me, I kind of put that on my parents. My parents did an incredible job to raise a young man that even though I was sequestered in this little island, Puerto Rico. My parents lived in the States before moving to Puerto Rico. So they instilled a lot of values, within me, that when I was able to then assume a position of leadership, when I became a chiropractor and I was taking care of my community, I was very transparent. I wanted them to know the truth. I wanted them to know that I was coming from a space of love. I wanted them to know that, there is hope in what we share in chiropractic. And if they follow the recommendations, understanding that we're not treating their pain, that we're coming from a point of love, and we want to give them hope, and that they understood the communication of what chiropractic is, that the brain communicates with the body through the nervous system, through the mental impulses. And if there's interference of that nervous system, the body can't function the way that it's designed to function. And so those interferences, as we know it, vertebral subluxations, they don't allow the person to be 100% of what that person needs to be. So our message is simple. Let's locate and analyze and correct that vertebral subluxation, allow the body to do what the body knows what to do, and that person then is going to respond according to their body. It's not that you and I do the healing. I never told the patient that we heal them, because if I told them that we heal them when they didn't get better, I'm supposed to take responsibility as well. Yeah. I think that's been the lack of communication through our profession, that we promise things to people that we don't understand. And guess what? The body knows better than you and I and any professional in our profession in chiropractic. And so if we tell them the truth, people believe it. People want to be part of it. People want to make the right decisions. They make their decisions based upon their ability to make that decision, not because the doctor told them to do so.
Yeah, definitely empowering the person to make better choices within their life and to move on that trajectory of life, right? And I'm curious, you mentioned that, when we do our job and the body heals and gets better, then the person expresses more of their own self. How does that look for you? What does it mean when someone is expressing a better life?
So I think that people don't realize that there's limitation to matter. And so therefore, if you've not taken care of yourself and if you've abused your body and you've done things that you're not supposed to do excessively, the time comes that there's limitation of matter. And so when somebody is functioning at 50% of capacity because they beat up their bodies all their life or they've abused their bodies, so for them to have a quality of life through chiropractic, they have to understand that there's limitation in matter and they're not going to 80% of capacity. They can only go up to 50% because that's the capacity that their body has to function. And so one of the myths is that chiropractors say, oh, I'm going to bring you back to where you've never been before. Well, that's not necessarily true because everybody is different and the quality of life in everybody is different. And guess what, Nimrod? You might have had some challenges beyond your ability because of lifestyle, because of resources, because of cultural upbringing, that it's not your fault. And therefore the limitation of matter has brought you to this point. And so when we speak to practice members, we want them to know that, listen, you know, your body has this incredible ability for the innate intelligence to function at 100%. But if there's limitation in matter, it can only function to that level. And so I'm not going to lie to you. You beat up your body. Therefore, we're going to do the best that we can to reconnect the intelligence of your body to function at the capacity that it needs to. But the outcomes depend on your body, and your body's different than mine, and it's different from the next person. And so if you do these things, you're going to notice some improvements. You're going to notice a better functioning of your nervous system. You're going to see that your body is going to respond very positively instead of the way that it was. But we don't know what that's going to be because it depends on you and your body. And the thing that you're going to do, if you don't change the ways of doing things, then you're going to go right back to square one again. And so I think it's the transparency. I know that I beat up my body. I was in the Navy. I did things and I was in situations and, you know, I beat up my body. And so therefore, what got me into chiropractic was my wife having challenges, health challenges. I grew up in a society. I'm a baby boomer. So I grew up that for every pain, ache, and strain, you took a pill, or you rubbed something on, or you took NyQuil to go to sleep, or that's how I grew up. So my understanding of how the body's capacity to function at 100% of its opportunity, that I didn't know that. You know, I took a pill, I took a potion, I did a lotion. I did everything that my people, when they walk into my office, are complaining about. And when my wife had an injury and I went to the chiropractor, this chiropractor just blew me away because he shared about the truth. He shared how the body functions. He shared that the body has this incredible capacity to function at a higher potential, provided there weren't vertebral subluxations. And I was enamored with the information. But you know what, Nimrod, this is what I did. I procrastinated for 8 years because it was like a deer in the headlights. The message was so bright, was so truthful that I couldn't comprehend it. And so therefore I panicked and fear set in. And I'm like, well, I can't do this. I haven't been to school in 20 years. You know, I just got out of the military. There's no way that I'm smart enough or good looking enough or tall enough or whatever the excuse was to go to chiropractic school. And so that fear paralyzed me for 8 years. And then one day it was like somebody smacked me across the face and said, no, this is the time to do this. And I did. I went to school. I had a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. My wife worked 3 jobs to allow me to be able to go through the process of going to school. And I tell you what, I am more excited about chiropractic and the chiropractic profession now than I was 26 years ago when I first started. So that ignites this desire within me to anybody that's within, you know, so many inches from me is going to hear what my truth at least is. I'm going to share it whether you want to hear it or not, because I think it's that important to get this message out there.
Yeah. So tell me what is exciting you about the profession of chiropractic right now?
So when you and I graduated from chiropractic school, it's very different than what's happening today in chiropractic school. I think that the kids are getting a well-rounded education as far as the art, the science, the philosophy. We're starting to implement, at least at Sherman, we're starting to implement the business acumen called the G10 program. And that means graduation plus 10, which means that if you follow the business entrepreneurship and acumen that we teach you from first quarter through 14th quarter, you can get out and understand the fundamentals of running a business and not being able to be behind. Like when you graduated, when I graduated, we had 1 or 2 classes of business. Now, I don't come
Yeah.
from this background. And so therefore, my parents were in the mentality of, you work for a company for 30 years, you get a gold watch or a gold ring, and then that's it. You go out and you retire.
Yeah.
You know, but running a business wasn't something that was instilled within me. And so one of the things that I start to see now, we have kind of led that into, now we're doing it through Q1 through Q14. So if you have a business background, great, it's going to be better. If you don't, now you're going to have something. So you don't have to go out and go through the struggles that maybe you or me or somebody else had gone through with one business class, which is the 13th or 15th quarter prior to you graduating. You know, and so it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I see that there's the understanding of the science, the art, and philosophy, the business acumen. I think that people are coming into chiropractic today versus back when I went to school in a different mindset, because I went to chiropractic school thinking, well, I want to be a doctor, I want to make money, and I want to serve people. You know, in the 1800s, people went to chiropractic school because there was a miraculous thing that happened in their life through chiropractic. And so that has stopped. And for years and years and years, people go to chiropractic school, and most chiropractic students have never had a chiropractic adjustment. And here they are going to chiropractic school. And it doesn't make any sense. I think now students are really doing their due diligence. They're looking at chiropractic schools. They're not deciding on geographic location. They're deciding on, if I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, I want to return in my investment. And if that school happens to be in South Carolina, that's where I'm going to go. I don't care where I live in the world. And so I think that there's the consumer, the student, is a little bit more savvy than they used to be. And so that excites me, because that means that if they pick the right school, they get the right education, they get the right information, they can go out there with those necessary tools and make an incredible impact for our profession.
Yeah, amazing. And so in terms of what is going on right now, you said that, you know, some things are needed right now in a different way of being generous with the stuff that you're doing there at Sherman and so on. I'm wondering what, with the experience that you have, you know, you're a dad, you've seen kids grow up, you grew up yourself in Puerto Rico, and you looked after some people at high levels, at the Olympic teams as well, is that right? And also with the students in Sherman and leadership there. What are some lessons that we can take in terms of facing a challenge and growing through it with those different experiences you have?
Well, first of all, we all have a capacity to get through challenges and difficulties. It's a matter of you understanding who you are. So if you don't know who Nimrod is, if I don't know who Edwin is, when a circumstance arises, the fear paralyzes me. And so I have to understand who I am as an individual. And what am I capable of and what am I not capable of? It's not about leadership having strength. It's about you understanding what your weaknesses are. It's easy for you, Nimrod, to show your strengths. You know, that's easy. And most leaders in our profession, they want to lead from their strengths. But when it comes to their weaknesses, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to do anything to overcome those fears. And so therefore, they're one-sided. I think that a well-rounded leader is a person that does introspection. So you read, you meditate, you find out what your weaknesses are. From those weaknesses, then you decide to work on this. I'll give you a prime example. So one of the things that really made a difference in my leadership was I did what's called the DISC analysis. Now, there's different versions of this. DISC analysis is your behavior under normal circumstances, the way you react, and under stressful situations. And so there's this whole testing of questions that let you know who you are and where you're strong and where you're weak. And so I went ahead and did a DISC profile, and I realized that my results from the DISC profile was I'm a leader. I'm a person that's decisive. I'm a visionary. I'm a person that's relatable. I can be very relationship-wise with people, no problem. But when it comes to the details of the data and the little, minutia of crossing over the T's and dotting, I'm not good at that. And so here I come to Sherman, and I'm trying to lead this institution. And so if you and I are going to have a conversation, and you happen to be a data-driven person, you're going to sit down to have a conversation with me, and this is what's going to be like. Well, Nimrod, I want you to give me the 5 points that are going to get this decision done. I want them today before noon, and please make sure that whatever else you're doing, you drop it because I need that information today. You're there going, oh my God, I can't operate that way. I need to do research. I need to get data. I need to find out. It may take me a week before I can get that information. And so because you're subordinate, you would say, yes, Dr. Cordero, I would get that done. And then chaos instills. And so I think that people don't realize who they are. And so a DISC test evaluation, very simple process. There's different versions of it. You take the questions and it tells you where you are under the different behaviors. And so this is what happens. If you're a data person and I'm a high red, which is direct, let's get this done yesterday. Now I know how to communicate with you where I can become an effective leader and you can then communicate with me, understanding where I stand in that spectrum. And so this is what we did. Not only did I do that for myself, I did it for my entire executive team. I did it for my entire faculty. And now we're going to be doing it to the students because we need to understand who we are. How do we react to things in a negative light? And how do we react to things in a positive light? So you need to know yourself. Number two, you need to be a great communicator. If you cannot communicate a message concisely, briefly, to be able to get your point across, you know, you hear it all the time. Communicators that get on and all they do is rattle off for an hour and a half and there was no point, you know?
Yeah.
And so they think they're great communicators, but they're not. You know, you have to tell a story. You have to be able to find out what the problem is. You got to be able to give a solution for the problem and then take some action steps. And so you have to understand proactively what you need to do. You need to be transparent. I don't know it all. And my people that I lead, they know that, but they know what I'm good at. And they know what I'm not good at. And you know what? I'm open to suggestion and I'm open to be able to grow as an individual. I think that that's where a lot of chiropractors fall by the waistline is that they don't realize who they are. They don't realize the power that they have to lead. And they have to be able to understand that when you lead, the power comes from different, there's a book that I'm reading here. I'll share this with you. There's a book that I'm reading. It's called The 4 Dimensions of Extraordinary Leadership. The 4 Dimensions of Extraordinary Leadership. It talks about leading from the heart, from the soul. It talks about leading from the mind and from strength. And if you understand those 4 major concepts, when you start to lead, you're a balanced leader. It's not all this, I know everything, you don't know anything. It's like, hey, we're here. And because I'm leading doesn't mean I know everything. And you can help me to elevate, which then elevates you, which is the purpose of leadership. As a leader, my responsibility is not success. My responsibility is to elevate other leaders to continue the mission. So when I'm no longer here, you can continue the mission.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm curious if you did an analysis on chiropractic as a profession, where do you think that its weaknesses would be under stress?
Well, it just depends, Nimrod. And it's not a fair question because this is what happens. We have 20 chiropractic schools here in the United States. We have 15 or 18 somewhere around there around the world as well. You have out of those 40 something schools, you probably have a handful of those schools that are actually teaching what chiropractic is. And so you can't blame a student that picks a school that's not congruent with the science, art, philosophy, chiropractic, because they're going to go and they think that's truth. And what they learn, they're going to go out and implement, and then they realize that that's not chiropractic, or it's not helping them to become a great chiropractor. And so there's a lot of weaknesses that are out there in the profession as a general. There's a lot of weaknesses. I think the number one weakness, and Joseph Strauss talks about this in his blue books, is that we don't understand our objectives as doctors of chiropractic. So I'll give you a prime example. Medicine understands their objective. Medicine knows that their job is to take away pain, is to cover up with drugs and medication, with therapies, with surgery. And they know people are going to die. So a percentage of people are going to die because of certain recommendations that they make. But overall, their objective is that they're helping the sick and dying people. And if you talk to 10 allopathic practitioners, you're probably going to get 9.5 of them to agree on their objectives.
Yeah.
In chiropractic, according to Joseph Strauss, that's a problem for us. We don't understand what our objective is. And so he gives 3 objectives in chiropractic that if we all, as doctors of chiropractic, aligned, whether we believed or not, or whether we were taught or not, it makes sense. And this is what the 3 objectives are. Chiropractic is not medicine. And so don't act like you're a medical doctor or allopathic doctor. Chiropractic has nothing to do. We're distinct, we're different, we have a different lane. And so therefore stick to what you know. Chiropractic is not medicine. Yet you go to chiropractic offices and they got their white coats and they got their stethoscope and they got their and you look at them and you don't even know what they are. And so
Yeah.
that's number one objective. So you tell people, you know, when they walk in, listen, we're not medical doctors. We're doctors of chiropractic, and this is what we do, and this is what we don't do. Number two, the second objective that Strauss talks about is that chiropractors locate, analyze, and correct vertebral subluxations. We don't do anything else. Our responsibility as doctors of chiropractic should be a broad understanding that we locate, analyze, and correct vertebral subluxations when necessary. If there's not a vertebral subluxation, you don't adjust the person. If there is, you tell them what it is, and you explain it, and you make the adjustment. And then the third thing, objective that he talks about is when you give that chiropractic adjustment, when it's necessary, and you give that chiropractic adjustment, it's to allow the innate intelligence of the body to express at 100% of its capacity. No guarantees, no cures. We're not taking away your pain. We're not going to make you better. We don't know how your body's going to respond. And so if we all understood these three objectives throughout the profession and we share that simple message, this profession would be completely transformed, completely different than what it is today. But we have 45 schools, 45 different opinions. And therefore, there's a lot of challenges within our profession.
It definitely feels very diluted and very dissected at times, isn't it? Extremely divided. So when you mentioned that the pathway for someone, an individual to grow is to recognize what's going on, to acknowledge it, to propose a solution, and then to take action in line with that. How do you think the chiropractic profession can use a similar model for what's going on in the world right now?
So I think it just depends on every single chiropractor in the areas that there may be. You know, when you're in Europe, there's certain things that you can do by law, and there's certain things that you can't do by law. So obviously you have to stay within your capacity to share this message and to be able to become congruent with your belief system to be able to share with your people. And so this is what makes it challenging. So what you do in Latin America is different than what you do in Europe. That's different than what you do in the US because of the regulatory agencies. And so therefore, it's very challenging, Nimrod, to be able to say, this is the one bullet that's going to help the profession to move forward. I think that we all need to just, like I said before, speak with truth. We need to be clear with the objective of what we're trying to do. We need to understand the necessity of what the patient is going through, because everybody is going through different situations and they all handle it from a different perspective. Some people are more psychologically, invested, and therefore when they have a personal problem at home, their body breaks down. Other people are more, they want attention. And so when you give them the attention, they feel better. When they don't get the attention, they feel like they're back to square. So everybody is different. And the message has to be whatever feels comfortable for you within your community. And the message has to be clear and concise to the people that you're serving in your community. So there's not one, simple answer that's everybody's going to be able to use in the profession. But I'm going to tell you this, don't talk about things that you don't know about. If you don't know about, tell the people, listen, you know what? I don't know, Nimrod. Can I get back to you and find out what it is? Or that's not within my scope of practice. Let me tell you what is within my scope of practice. And let me tell you my experience and the wisdom that I've had practicing chiropractic for all these years. That's a better approach to be able to talk to our people. But we have to have a fundamental basis so we can share the truth with as many people as possible. But so many people are all over the place. And now in times of stress and times of, situations that are happening is when you start to see the leadership be able to step up. So to me, this is something this is a quote that I love. And I wrote it down because I want to share. A true leader is concerned with people, not with success. Yeah. So is your concern as a leader, as a practitioner in your part of the world about people? Or is it about money? Is it about the privilege of you calling yourself doctor? And some people still don't understand that concept. And I'm here to tell you this. This is just me. Edwin Cordero, and everybody may agree or may not agree. I know what it is to live without money, and I know what it is to live with money. I like living more with money. I'm going to be honest with you. But I would never put money before people. That just doesn't happen. And so to me, if you help the people and you serve the people, the byproduct of that is money. Instead of going in there thinking about the success and business and what can you get and how can you become successful and then not think about the people. And I think that that's one of the things that no matter where you are in the world, if you think about the people first and what is it that you want to accomplish, and what do you want to do in your community, and how you want to educate them and teach them, the byproduct of that is going to be success. It's going to be money. It's going to be accolades. It's going to be whatever it is that you're choosing to define as success, but you got to take care first of the people.
Yeah, well, this is definitely a time when help is needed, and chiropractic plays such an amazing role with that. And so maybe just as one very short closing question, what's the bottom line for you? What's the hope for chiropractic?
So I would hope and pray. I'm a man of faith. I would hope and pray that the future generations of chiropractic will continue to bring this message as you and I move on, whether we retire or whether we die or whatever may be the case, that as you and I stood upon the shoulders of those that came before us, and we make this profession maybe better than what it was, that the future generation of chiropractic can stand upon our shoulders and make this profession better. So from years from now, they will be having conversations of, hey, you remember that guy, Edwin Cordero and Nimrod, Mueller, and they were having this conversation. You know what? They hit a couple key points that changed my thinking and my mindset. And because of that, I made better decisions that now this profession can continue to be there in existence, in perpetuity. And so I'm hoping that I can leave this profession better than what it was handed to me, and that the future generation can do even better than that. And I think that would be what I would love to see in this profession.
A very, very worthy thing to be doing. So thank you very much for your wisdom, your generosity, and your expertise, and very much for your time as well, Ed. It's been an absolute pleasure, and you are such a wealth of information and inspiration. So thank you very, very much for your time today.
Thank you, Nimrod. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I hope that people are willing to be open-minded and to be able to listen to things and then process it, and whatever comes out, they make the decisions that are right for themselves, not necessarily because I said something or you said something. It's something that they need to process. So thank you for the opportunity, and look forward to being able to do this again in the future.
Beautiful. So do I. So do I. Thank you very much, Ed.